Choosing a guitar can be great fun, but it can also be a bit of a minefield. So to help you through that, I'm going to start at a kind of different point of view. If you won the lottery and you could afford to spend between £1,500 and £10,000 on a guitar, then that would be great. But the chances are you haven't got that kind of money. So what you need to do is to think, what has the manufacturer of the guitar I'm looking at done to cut down the price from that £1,500 to the price level it is now? And can I live with those corners that have been cut? The first thing they'll probably do with a really cheap guitar is to make the front out of plywood instead of solid wood. Now on this guitar, which is a Valeriano Banal flamenco guitar, but the same principle applies, this has got a spruce front, but it's solid. That means that the front can vibrate. It's going to get better with age. With a plywood front, it'll sound like just what it is, a plywood box. It'll never get any better, but if you can live with that, then fine, why not? What you really want to do though is to try and plump for a solid front guitar. It will either be spruce, like this one, or it'll be cedar, which is a slightly darker wood. One isn't better than the other, they're just different. It's whatever you like the sound of. So if you can possibly stretch to afford a solid front guitar, then I would suggest that that's the way you go. The sides and the back of this particular guitar are solid rosewood, which is always going to be the best kind of wood for a classical guitar. However, all it is really is a reflector. What you need is the hardest kind of wood you can to reflect the sound that comes off the front. So you'll often find that to cut prices, a guitar will be a laminate that is made up of different kinds of laminate wood. Sometimes it will be mahogany. If you can get rosewood, so much the better. But that's not so important as the front of the guitar. The other place they will save money on a cheaper guitar is this very pretty decorative sound hole motif, which is called a rosette. On cheaper guitars that will be actually a transfer. It makes absolutely no difference at all to the sound, so if you could live with a transfer instead of tiny little inlaid bits of wood, then why not? Be careful about cutting corners on things like the machine heads here. Cheap machine heads will tend to slip, so try and get a decent machine head. When you turn it, it goes easily. Look out into the cogs to make sure that it's not chewing up the metal. If it's not brass, sometimes they use a really cheap metal and you'll see little strafes of metal coming off, so beware of that. You can change these, of course. You can buy a set quite reasonably, £20 or so. So if you get a good guitar but it's got rubbish machine heads, at least that's something you can change quite easily. The most important thing about the guitar is how easy it is to play. If it's really, really difficult to hold down the strings, particularly with a weak finger, let's say the little finger in the first fret here, then that's going to cause you problems later on and you're probably going to give up because it's hard work. Equally, if the distance between the string and the fret at fret number 12, which is where the guitar neck joins onto the body, if that's too high, that's going to cause you problems as well. So just test it with your little finger, make sure it's not too difficult to hold down. The string height at this end, where the bridge is, it rests on this little white piece which is called a saddle. There's sometimes a little bit of margin there so that you can take this white bridge saddle out and rub it down and lower it a little bit. But you don't want to lower that too much, otherwise you start getting buzzes. So you want a nice clear sound, easy to play when you hold down the strings. This particular guitar is an Alhambra 3F, which means it's a flamenco guitar. They do an Alhambra 3C, which is the classical version. It's basically the same kind of guitar, the only difference is the woods for the back and the sides. In this one it's cypress to give it a slightly more biting sound. This particular model is actually an electroacoustic, but they do make a standard acoustic classical guitar model, which probably retails somewhere in the region of £300 to £350. It's a good guitar, it sounds okay, it's easy to play. Alhambra and B&M have pretty much got the classical market for students sewn up. but there are alternatives. If you want an alternative to the usual Spanish offerings, you might want to consider the latest batch of imports from China. Now, 10 years ago I'd have laughed if you'd have said Chinese make good guitars, but just have a look at this one. This one's by Abanico. It's got laminated back and sides in rosewood. The fronts come in a choice of either solid spruce like this one or cedar. Got a nice mahogany neck, really decent machine heads, and they sound pretty good as well. They come complete with a semi-solid case, and they retail for £245, which I think is pretty good. You can check those out. There's a website at the end of this little video.